Cheater that gave me HSV-2, but ended up making me a better person. This might be a long read as there is a lot to it. It happened years ago, so I'm trying to recall all of the details. It's just my experience, and I hope those who are going through a difficult time can at least find some inspiration from the story. I posted many of the details in response to a question on here. But this is the full story, well, at least most of it. I was 29 at the time and she was the same age. We met in, I believe, January, shortly after New Year's. I had just come out of a long dry spell from dating/no sex. I was just coming out of that dry spell. I had been with 1 to 2 partners before I met her. One was a very old FWB and the other was someone I had met on a dating website. It'd been about 4 to 5 months since I had done anything intimately. This will be important later. We hit it off on the first date. We actually had known each other in high school. So things got hot and heavy fast. Things were going well for the first 6 weeks of the relationship. We both had opposite-sex friends and both were okay with it. She was recently divorced, a little over a year. She claimed her ex was too controlling. This is a major red flag, but I did not realize it at the time. Red flags had been popping up, but on the advice of my therapist he suggested I wait it out and see how things went as the relationship became more serious. It's important to note, I have never been married and I am OCD, anxiety disorder. I can be extremely rigid and very easy to turn off. My normal behavior in the past was any hint of a red flag, I just cut them off and move on with my life. So I was trying very hard to work through that rigidity. I really wanted a relationship that would last. Fast forward a few months and it was a few days before my 30th birthday. I had been noticing that she was excessively texting another guy. It was to the point that I was becoming somewhat jealous. Now normally I would have just put an end to a new relationship and moved forward with my life. But I was tired of being single. So I took a peek at the text messages between her and him. He was her best friend's husband. Shocker, there was endless sexting going on, talk about masturbation, talk about how /when/where/who she had sex with and so on. There were even nudes that included her, a group of her girlfriends skinny dipping at a girls' night. Many of those girlfriends were married. These pictures left absolutely nothing to imagination, everything was visible on everyone. That girls' night happened when we were dating. I dropped her off at it. I was never told about it or even sent the pictures of just her. I was ready to end it and end it for good. However, I had spent the majority of my previous birthday alone, in large part because of the mental illnesses I have. I did not want to spend my 30th alone. So I had planned to put off breaking things off with her until the end of that week. When I tried to break things off, she absolutely lost it. I thought you were okay with opposite-sex friends. Yeah, I am, but I don't send nudes to my female friends. I also don't text them daily or talk about sex with them at all. It's completely platonic friendships. What you're doing is not. The following day I end up a doctor. I had noticed a somewhat painful bump below the below. I assumed it was an ingrown hair that was infected. The doctor takes one quick look. I'm not 100% sure, but that is more than likely herpes. So at this point, I feel trapped. No one will want to date someone who has herpes. I have to make this relationship work. I foolishly thought I could make my expectations of loyalty and her internet activity clear. That maybe if I made my ideas of healthy boundaries, what loyalty was and so on, it would put an end to the sexting. At that point I walked back my plans to end things with her. Things were already a little rocky between us for other reasons I have not posted. I was noticing she was an alcoholic and I was having issues getting along with some of her family friends. One of them berated me about what I did for a living. So when I informed her about the HSV-2, I asked her to stop by after work. She was fuming mad I had her come over to tell her just that in person. She said it was not a big deal and was upset I wasted her time. Then she acted as though she was upset she just found out she had herpes. I now believe this was all a show on her part. I think she knew she had it, and I think she knew I would leave. I took the blame for the HSV-2 anyways, putting it on one of the 2 people I had slept with before I met her. Despite the fact that during year or so being single she slept with north of 10 men, another red flag I ignored. I was already on my way to alcoholism. I was binge drinking before. But the anxiety from dating her took my drinking from binges to full-on alcoholism in a matter of weeks. She would get angry and fight with me, because I did not trust her to be on her phone. She would call me controlling because of the boundaries I wanted maintained. She would argue with me that sexting/texting and all of that was a gray area, that it was not black and white. This all had definitely gone well beyond the point at which I'd normally just exit a relationship. But I was committed because I felt trapped due to the HSV-2. June hits and she is talking to me about her ex-husband. Apparently he is dating/engaged to someone I had dated when I was 18. I did not know it at the time or until she informed me. When she found out, her first response was, "I feel like I should get to sleep with one of your friends to even it out." That turned into another massive argument. The 4th of July rolls around, we are at my brother's place with my parents, and my brother's wife's extended family. Before we get there, one of her old flings from her post-divorce partying texts her. The guy didn't even live in our area anymore. I told just end it, block him, move on with your life and us. Despite my better judgment, I left it up to her to do. Perhaps in part one figured this was a good opportunity for her to show me she could be trusted. We are all lighting off fireworks and I notice my girlfriend has disappeared. When she comes back out she is heavily engaged in her phone. So I walk up, "What are you doing?" She drunkenly says ending things with John that was supposed to happen 5 hours ago. "Can I see?" She shrugs and has a look of guilt on her face. I grab the phone. She had made him some very X-rated videos in the bathroom at my brother's place and sent them to him as a parting gift. When I tell her we are leaving, she goes absolutely ballistic on me. It's taking everything in me not rage and scream. I was so broken at this point, I couldn't even exit the relationship or think clearly. Everything was creating this massive fog. She had wore down my self-esteem, my self-respect, my alcoholism was out of control, it was bad. I was truly lost and had no idea who or what I was anymore. I stuck around until about September. She was constantly sexting with other men. My alcoholism had really spiraled out of control. When I finally checked out of the relationship, my parents and friends were relieved. They could not believe I had stuck around as long as I did. I only did so because of the HSV-2 at first, but towards the end I was just absolutely destroyed as an individual. At some point towards the end of September I was in a really dark place. I was drinking 2 or 3 1.75 milliliters of vodka a week. I had to drink beer during the day while at work to prevent the shakes, which are early stages of alcohol detox seizures. I finally came to the realization I required help and a ton of it. I was tired of being broken, I was tired of being a drunk, I was tired of it all. I was willing to do anything to put end to my pain. The next morning I woke up and asked my family if they could help me get into rehab. I still had insurance and some cash. We found a good rehab on the California coast. I did 32 days, I think 24 days of inpatient treatment and 8 days of out. When I checked into the rehab, I was repeating what I was saying. I could not remember who I had told what or anything. I blew around a .32. The detox was absolutely brutal. They had to give me Valium every 2 hours for about 3 to 4 days to prevent seizures. I had post-acute withdrawals for about 3 to 6 months. I did not know if I could maintain sobriety when I left, but my insurance had cut off coverage. Against all odds, I stuck with sobriety for the first year for no other reason than the simple fact that I wanted to give sobriety at least 1 year. My life was improving slowly, so I stuck with it. Rehab did not fix everything for me, it simply gave me a foundation I could build upon. I had a huge mess clean up. The first few months I was home from rehab, my ex was calling. She was apparently worried about me. I would talk to her on the phone briefly, but that was it. Some point around 1 to 2 months into sobriety I wanted intimacy, not from her, and I was talking to her about how difficult it was to find in part because I had HSV-2. She suggested I just meet someone from Tinder and not tell them I have/had HSV-2. I informed her I was not that type of person, that I could not be that selfish. The next morning, I received a text message: "I can no longer be friends with you." My best guess is she could not handle the fact that through the friendship, I was showing I was not the bad guy. That she, in fact, was the problem and the reason our relationship ended. About 2 weeks after her and I last spoke, I met someone in a private group for HSV positive people. She ironically lived 2 doors down from my ex. We hit it off, started seeing each other and having a great time together. The best part? The new woman was way hotter than my ex. My ex was at best average, the new woman was way above average in the looks department. We dated for a few months. I was always over there and my ex had to deal with seeing me with the hotter new G/F and sending the new G/F flowers occasionally. We ended up going our separate ways in life because we were just different people with different interests. But it was fun while it lasted. Where am I today? I got sober on November 2, 2014. I have maintained that sobriety perfectly to this day. I take my mental health seriously, I stay on my RX, I read the books my therapist suggests, I put the behavioral therapy to practice. My life just continues to improve. There were some difficulties with my career due to COVID lockdowns. But that has all turned a corner this last month. I have 2 jobs and I'm in negotiations with a large company to sell some of my intellectual property for a fairly large lump sum. Where is my ex? Her ex-husband and I became friends during my first year sobriety. I reached out to him on social media suggesting he take custody of their kids. It had nothing to do with revenge towards my ex. She was a full-blown alcoholic, she constantly got blackout drunk, drinking and driving was common. She was not capable of being a full-time parent. I even offered to testify in court on his behalf if required. We shared stories and it was then that he told they divorced for similar reasons. We maintain a friendship to this day. He's told me stories about her and given me updates. Her drunken driving led to multiple vehicle crashes. Most were swept under the rug by their local PD. But 2 major ones occurred with major injuries to other parties. She received 2 DUIs for those. Insurance companies will no longer insure her. Her sexting escapades were exposed. Apparently one of her friends noticed her husband was having an emotional affair. They did some digging and my ex's entire world was exposed and came crashing down. It broke up their group of friends. Apparently multiple parties/people were involved. Many of her friends worked for her best friend's family. The husband my ex was sexting. The sexting ring led to a ton of drama and problems for them. People were fired, people had to resign. When this was going, I would get random friend requests from people on social media. They would ask me if I knew what was going on when I dated her. I'd give them what information I had. A few apologized to me. Apparently they had all gossiped negatively about me. Some had even warned other women to stay clear of me. I did thank them for that though, told them I had zero interest in anyone they knew or was part of their circus. I'd rarely respond to the apologies. If I did, they got nothing more than a thumbs up. When I asked how she was, all I got was an alright, and it was clear she could not handle the situation. I wished her the best and we went our separate ways. I no longer hold anger towards her, I simply feel pity and indifferent. I could easily blame her for giving me HSV, but if I am honest, I played in part it as well. It was my choice to sleep with her before an STI test could be done and so on. I will never let her into my life again, even as a friend. I know the potential she has and the damage she can cause. There is no way I want that any place near me or my life. I learned a ton from this relationship. I grew a ton because of it, and for that I am truly thankful. Then there was her place of employment. She worked at an insurance company. She had a ton of certifications/licenses and was well on her way to making 6 figures. She apparently was sexting coworkers and coworkers' husbands. It ended up getting exposed and created an HR nightmare at her place of employment. She was fired almost immediately and there was a mass exodus of employees. The insurance company lost so many key people so quickly that they were forced to sell the business to a larger competitor who could fill the gaps. I did see her recently at a store. She attempted to say hi to me. I could not recognize her. The alcoholism has clearly done a damage to her body. She did not look good, and the guy she was with looked like a real winner. When she had to inform me who she was, she teared up. We briefly chatted. I informed her how good my life was going today,